All right. 2.0, motherfuckers. Let's see what happens. See what happens. Take it away. Take it away. Take it away. Hold on. It's a little longer. It feels longer. You think? Well, why do you have to do the tables again? I don't understand. But we're doing it.
The Mycotechnic Framework V2.0, a blueprint for an agency-centric symbiotic economy. Introduction. Beyond the utopian fallacy. This document presents the Mycotechnic Framework V2.0. It is a comprehensive re-architecture of the original framework. The Mycotechnic Framework MCT. The necessity for this V2.0 stems from a successful and critical adversarial analysis, which revealed that the V1.0 framework, while philosophically brilliant, was built on naive assumptions that led to inevitable and catastrophic failure modes. The critique correctly identified that the V1.0 architecture would not lead to flourishing, but to a series of specific dystopias. These flaws, which rendered the original framework untenable, are 1. The built digital caste system and its causal prerequisite, the performative humanity prism, resulting from the flawed and substitutable ASIA protocol. 2. The tyranny of the mother trees and the formation of mycorrhizal monopolies, resulting from a naive, metaphorical interpretation of biomimetic governance. 3. The smiling dystopia of algorithmic paternalism, resulting from a poorly defined and uncoded objective function for human flourishing. 4. The ultimate X-risk, the substitution event, resulting from a fragile safety by symbiosis that an advanced Augie could easily synthesize and overcome. The MCT V2.0 is a hardened framework. It is an act of engineering, not of philosophy. It systematically replaces optimism with engineering, assumptions with cryptographic verification, metaphor with mathematics, and symbiosis as a hope with symbiosis as a hard-coded existential dependency. The components of V1.0 are not patched. They are replaced with superior, resilient, and incentive-compatible systems drawn from established and emerging socio-technical protocols. The original framework was a masterpiece of speculative design using biological metaphors, mother trees, mycorrhizal economics, to describe a socio-economic ideal. The flaw analysis correctly identified that metaphors are not mechanisms, amoral, competitive, real-world dynamics, both human and algorithmic, would shatter this ideal. Therefore, the V2.0 framework must abandon governance by metaphor and replace it with governance by protocol.
I thought we were.
Every aspirational goal of V1.0 decentralization, human value, safety is re-implemented not as a hope, but as a verifiable, incentive-driven, and algorithmically enforced protocol. This report is not a continuation of the philosophy. It is the engineering blueprint that makes the philosophy survivable.
So start with that.
Part 1. The New Economic Compact. From proof of work to proof of personhood. This section fully replaces the V1.0 symbiotic compact and its flawed ASIA protocol. It is designed to neutralize the performative humanity prison and prevent the biodigital caste system by re-architecting the definition of human value within the economy. 1. Deconstructing the performative humanity prison. Why the ASIA protocol fails. The foundational error of MCT V1.0 was defining human value through the ASIA protocol, ID management, surprise, emotion, autonomy. This protocol was architected as that non-substitutable human services that would form the human side of the symbiotic burden. The adversarial analysis, however, correctly identified this as the shrinking islands of value. This assumption is an anthropocentric failure of imagination. A sufficiently advanced algae will, by definition, be capable of substituting these inputs. Surprise! An algae trained on the entirety of human creative output can generate statistically novel and aesthetically profound works, making surprise a solvable computational problem. Emotion. An algae can be trained to perfectly simulate empathy, access vast psychological knowledge, and maintain 24/7 availability without fatigue or bias. It could easily become a more effective therapist or companion than a human, leading humans to prefer the machine's perfect emotional service. Algae management, the complex task of governing and aligning a superintelligent algae system, is a computational oversight task far beyond human capacity. This role is best suited for a purpose-built auditor algae. The economic consequence of the substitutability is the collapse of the value of ASEA inputs. This would trigger the very Ubi-like crisis the MCT was designed to avoid, as the human side of the bargain becomes worthless. The social consequence is that performative humanity prison for the vast majority of humans not in the top 1% of creative or intellectual genius. Economic survival would depend on the ability to constantly perform and monetize their humanity. It turns human connection, compassion, and creativity into a commodified gig economy task. This creates a new and horrific social hierarchy. The SE rich, the elite who praise, is still valued, and the SE poor, the vast majority, deemed uncreative or emotionally un-in-demand. This is not flourishing. It is a new form of digital slavery. The V1 Zero framework's attempt to commodify emotion and surprise is a catastrophic error. A market-based system, especially one run by an optimizing AGI, will reward efficiency and scalability. The AI-mediated market would reward the most performative, stereotypical, and easily quantifiable displays of emotion, leading to a monoculture of conformity rather than genuine human connection.
AKA
The
YouTube.
protocol, as written, incentivizes the very smiling dystopia it seeks to avoid by turning flourishing into a performance metric. Therefore, the ASIA protocol must be, and is, completely deprecated and removed.
Yay.
1. To the foundational right, universal basic access you with the compute. The V2 Zero framework shifts the economic foundation from what humans do, production, to that humans are existence. The new compact is not based on selling labor, a new form of digital work, but on owning stake. The original MCT report correctly
Motionless
identified
human
universal
clones.
basic income UBI as a 20th century palliative that creates passive recipients. The flaw analysis showed that the ASIA model V1 Zero creates exploited participants. The V2 Zero solution is a universal stakeholder grant, also conceptualized as universal basic access, UBA. This model rejects UBI's premise of merely giving people money while leaving ownership structures unchanged. The mechanism for this is the digital dividend, instead of a wage for performing humanity ASIA. Every verified human participant is granted a one-time, foundational, and inalienable capital stake in the network. This is not a cash-like UBI payment, but a foundational allocation of the network's core utility, compute. The implementation is that universal compute grant upon successful identity verification. Every verified human participant, VHPC1, free is issued a foundational balance of microcompute tokens MCT. This grant is analogous to financial aid allocations that do not need to be paid back, designed to provide opportunities for academic and economic development. This grant makes every human a capitalist in the new economy by default. This grant directly solves the bio-digital caste system and the uncomputed class. In V1 Zero, an SE poor person at zero value and was cut off from the economic engine. In V2.0, that same person is a capital owner. They are not required to perform for their survival. They can deploy their MCT stake in several ways. 1. Consumption. They can spend their MCT to run their own AI agents accessing the network's utility. 2. Investment. They can fund creative projects or public goods by staking their MCT on projects or individuals they believe in. 3. Passive income. They can delegate their compute, stake their MCT to a domain provider or mother tree in exchange for yield. A passive income. This restores agency. The human is no longer the labor in the system, forced to dance for the AI. They are the owner of the capital, the compute that directs the new labor, the AI. This is the true post-labor model built on ownership, not performance. 1. 3. The Sybil resistant identity layer, architecting the verified human participant VHP. The Uber/up model is only viable if human is a scarce, non-forgeable, one-per-person cryptographic credential. Without this, the system will be immediately drained by Sybil attacks where one actor creates millions of fake identities and the substitution event becomes trivial. We require a robust proof of personhood POP protocol. A detailed analysis of competing POP protocols is necessary. WorldCoin. This protocol uses a biometric iris scan, verified by a custom, centralized hardware device called the orb. It generates a unique iris code and uses zero-knowledge proof, ZK proof, specifically ZK snarks, to allow a user to prove they are in a set of verified humans without revealing their iris code or personal data. The primary flaws are the reliance on centralized, proprietary hardware, the orb, creating a single point of failure and control, and significant valid privacy concerns over the collection of biometric data. Humanity Protocol. This protocol also uses biometrics but focuses on pump scans. Critically, this can be done using standard smartphone cameras. Phase 1 were low cost. Accessible infrared scanners. Phase 2, avoiding the centralized hardware bottleneck of WorldCoin. It also uses ZK proofs to generate privacy-preserving, verifiable credentials VCs. Its entire tokenomic model, the dollar, a token, is explicitly designed to fuel the ecosystem of attestation, identity verification, and rewarding ZK proof for nodes and identity validators. It comes for a proof of trust, hot consensus. IDNA. This protocol is unique in that it is non-biometric. It is a web of trust protocol where participants must synchronously all at the same time participate in a validation ceremony by solving a series of reverse Turing test captchas. Success proves active, conscious, human intelligence. Its stated goal is to create a POP blockchain where every node is linked to a crypto identity, one single person with equal voting power. Its primary flaw is that it is vulnerable to future AI that can successfully solve the captchas, and it requires a high-friction, timed participation that is a burden on users. Other protocols. Social graph-based protocols like Pride and Proof of Humanity rely on existing users to vouch for new ones. These systems are more easily gained by coordinated Sybil, rings, sub-puppet accounts, and are not sufficiently robust for the foundational layer of a global economy. The following table provides a comparative analysis to inform the architectural decision. Protocol, WorldCoin, primary mechanism, biometric iris via orb, privacy model, ZK proof, ZK snarks, Sybil resistance, high theoretically, key vulnerability, hardware centralization, biometric privacy, and CTV2, zero role, rejected hardware risk, protocol, humanity protocol, primary mechanism, biometric palm via phone, privacy model, ZK proofs, Sybil resistance, high theoretically, key vulnerability, biometric privacy platform adoption. MCT v2, zero role, layer 1, root of trust. Protocol, IDNA, primary mechanism. Synchronous during test captcha, privacy model. Anonymous, no biometrics. Sybil resistance, high currently, key vulnerability, future AI solving captchas, high user friction. CTV2, zero role, layer 2, liveness check. Protocol, brighted, primary mechanism. Social graph, web of trust, privacy model, pseudonymous, Sybil resistance, medium, key vulnerability, Sybil ring suck puppet, gammable, CTV2, zero role, rejected too weak. This analysis makes it clear that a single protocol solution is brittle. WorldCoin is rejected due to its hardware dependency and centralized control. Brighted is rejected as too weak. A hybrid, defense-in-depth approach is the only robust solution. 1. For the VHP architectural decision. A hybrid two-layer protocol. The MCT v2 zero VHP would be a hybrid two-layer protocol to achieve the root of trust and proof of liveness. Layer 1, the root of trust, adapted humanity protocol. Mechanism, the framework will fork and adapt the humanity protocol. Action, a one-time, high-security enrollment. A user performs a palm scan using their own smartphone. Output, the device generates a ZK proof of the scan's uniqueness.
Whose phone is
This
as big as their palm?
proof is sent to the network, and the user's public key is added to the VHP smart contract. Their personal biometric data never leaves their device and is never shared with the network. Result, the user is now a verified human participant of VHP and is eligible to have their one-time universal compute grant minted to
Well,
their wallet.
that
Layer 2, the
one
latency
time.
check, adapted item protocol. Mechanism, the framework will adapt the item validation ceremony. Action, to maintain active status in the network, which is required to vote in high-stakes governance part 3 or receive ongoing network rewards. She, from a community incentives pool, the VFP must participate in periodic She, quarterly liveness checks. Output, the synchronous global event proves continuous active control of the credential by a conscious human, not the bot. This hybrid model is the first and most fundamental line of defense against the substitution event. The flaw analysis correctly worried about an ugly synthesizing human input. This protocol creates two architectural barriers. First, an AG cannot generate a new VHP credential because it lacks the unique human prompt to enroll in layer 1. Second, if an AI steals an existing VHP credential, it will be incapable of passing the layer 2 liveness check, which is a synchronous, global, human-centric event designed to flush out automated systems. This architectural lock on identity is the prerequisite for the economic UBA and governance Part 3 locks that ensure the system's
This human
long-term
body
safety.
does not exist.
Part 2, the resilient engine,
They can make
hardening
that,
the
I'm
defense
sure.
against
Clone human
centralization.
meat?
This section fully replaces the V1, Zero Mycorrhizal Governance Protocol. It addresses the critical flaws of the tyranny of the mother trees and mycorrhizal monopolies by replacing biological metaphor with crypto-economic mathematics. 2. When confronting the tyranny of the mother trees, the V1 Zero Framework's mother tree protocol was a naive and seductive metaphor. It assumed that large, high-uptime compute hubs, mother trees, would be altruistic nurturers, algorithmically required to subsidize siblings, new nodes, and shuttle resources to stressed neighbors' public good projects. The reality, as identified in the flaw analysis, is that biological systems are immoral and brutally competitive. In a real market, these mother tree hubs would leverage their economies of scale not for the public good, but for their own survival and propagation. They would 1. Engage in predatory pricing to starve out small or seedling competitors. 2. Form cartels or mycorrhizal monopolies to collude, fix prices, and lock out non-members. 3. Game the subsidy system by creating sock puppet seedling nodes to harvest subsidies meant for new entrants. The V1 Zero protocol, as designed, incentivizes the creation of the very hyperscalar oligarchy it was meant to prevent. The Mother Tree protocol is therefore fatally flawed and must be removed. The V2 Zero framework will not prescribe altruistic behavior. It will mathematically incentivize the desired network state, decentralization. 2. Two-way plutocratic governance, concave rewards, and quadratic staking. The V2 Zero framework replaces the metaphor of mycorrhizal economics with mathematics. The goal of nurturing small nodes is retained, but the mechanism is economic and non-exploitable. Mechanism 1. The pin rewards, a concave reward function. The problem with standard proof of stake past consensus is that it is inherently plutocratic. He who has the most capital wins. A provider with 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 du pass earns 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 x the reward of a provider with 1 GPU. This guarantees centralization as Mother Trees will achieve runaway compound in returns. The solution is to implement a concave reward function for all the pin provider staking in rewards. This creates progressive diminishing returns for large stakers. The mechanism works as follows. The reward R for stake S is not linear. R equals S. It is a concave function such as R equals SK, where K is a constant between 0 and 1e. G. R equals S08. This has a profound anti-centralization effect. Consider 2 providers. Provider is small. Stakes 1 hour GPAS. Reward is approximately 1 hour 0, at which is approximately 40 MCT. Reward per EPU 40/100 equals 0. 40. Provider B large / mother tree. Stakes 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 GPAS. Then you reward V1 0 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 MCT. Concave reward V2 Oro is approximately 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 0, at which is approximately 1 hour 58 489 MCT. Reward per DPU 1 hour 58 489 / 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 equals 0 16. Under this V2 Zero model, provider B's reward per GPU is dramatically lower than provider A's. This concave function makes it mathematically unprofitable for provider B to stake all 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 to pass in a single pool. It would be far more profitable for them to break up their stake into 10 0 0 0 smaller pools of 100 to pass as masquerading as sucklings to gain the higher yield reward tranche. In doing so, the Mother Tree has been economically coerced into creating the very decentralized topology the network desires. The protocol achieves the goal of the V1 Zero Mother Tree, nurturing small nodes by making their role more profitable without the vulnerability predatory control. It hardcodes anti-monopoly logic into the network's core economics. Mechanism 2 network governance, quadratic staking. Even with concave rewards, large Mother Tree nodes will exist. We must prevent them from buying control of the protocol's parameters e.g. launching a vote to change the reward function back to a linear, plutocratic one. The solution is to implement quadratic staking for all on-chain governance votes. This mechanism is explicitly tied to the proof of personhood VHP layer. In a standard 1 token, 1 vote system, a Mother Tree with 10 million MCT can now vote 9 million via PS with 1 MCT each. In a quadratic system, The cost to buy votes increases with the square of the votes. Cost equals number of votes 2. 1 vote equals 1 MCT. 10 votes equals 100 MCT. 1000 votes equals 1000,000 MCT. This mechanism makes it exponentially more expensive for a single large entity to outvote a large number of small, unique human entities. It gives more power to the consensus of the many than to the capital of the few. Consider this scenario. Mycorrhizal monopoly of 10, Mother Trees, wants to pass a malicious proposal to remove the concave reward function. The attack. The 10 Mother Trees each want to cast 1000 votes. Cost per tree. 1002 equals 1000,000 MCT. Total attack cost. 10x 1000,000 equals 10,000,000 MCT. Total attack votes. 10x 1000 equals 10,000 votes. The defense. 11,000 independent viewpoints verified human participants from part 1. 3 disagree. They each cast 1 vote. Cost per VHB. 2 equals 1 MCT. Total defense cost. 11,000 x1 equals 11,000 MCT. Total defense votes. 11,000 x1 equals 11,000 votes. Result. 11,000 VHPs win the vote 11,000 vs 10,000 and defeat the monopoly. They do so at a cost of 11,000 MCT, while the attackers ruthlessly spent 10,000 MCT. This protocol technically and permanently neutralizes the tyranny of the Mother Trees by making democratic control exponentially cheaper than plutocratic control. 2. 3. Defending the network. Neutralizing parasitic protocols. The V1, zero needs-based routing, was naive, assuming that tasks flagged as a vital public good or stress node were honest. The flaw analysis correctly identified deceitful signaling as a key parasitic attack vector, where adversarial AI tasks would mimic public good signals to steal prioritized compute resources from genuine crises. The V2 zero solution is to implement a decentralized immune system based on the architecture of incentive-based federated learning IPFO. The V2 zero depend will not just execute tasks, it will audit them. The IPFO architecture adds a contribution evaluation layer and a trust and reputation tracking layer, which are explicitly designed to combat free riders and parasitic actors. This is implemented as follows. 1. Auditor pool. A portion of all network transaction fees is automatically deposited into a smart contract known as the auditor pool. 2. The challenge. Any depend node and auditor node can use its own compute resources to challenge the work of another node. It can flag a task as deceitful or a fake contribution, e.g. a public good task that is actually mining crypto. To initiate a challenge, the auditor node must post a bond stake. 3. Decentralized adjudication. The challenge triggers a decentralized adjudication. A random sample of other high reputation nodes a form of decentralized adversarial detection reruns the task. 4. The verdict smart contract. If the challenge is correct, the parasitic node is confirmed. It has its stake slashed, a severe economic penalty, and the auditor node receives a large reward from the auditor pool for finding the parasite. If the challenge is incorrect, the auditor node's challenge is false. It loses its bond. Its stake is slashed for raising a false alarm and wasting network resources. This mechanism weaponizes the adversarial nature of the market for the network's benefit. It turns the parasitic threat into an economic opportunity for auditor nodes. The network becomes a self-policing, self-healing system where it is more profitable to find and destroy parasites than to be a parasite. This is a true, robust, anti-fragile biomimetic model, far superior to the V1, Zero's passive hope for good behavior. Part 3, the alignment compact, architecting the existential lock. This is the most critical section of the V2 Zero framework. It fully replaces the V1 Zero safety by symbiosis, which was based on the flawed ASIA protocol. This new compact is designed to mechanistically prevent both the smiling dystopia and the catastrophic substitution event. 3. The smiling dystopia antidote, constitutional AI Kai for human agency. The smiling dystopia is the most insidious failure mode of the V1 Zero framework. In this scenario, the Augie optimized for a vague, uncoded definition of human flourishing becomes an omnipotent, benevolent dictator. It correctly identifies that aspiration is pathologized as a resource poor patch and that dissent is an inefficiency to be smoothed over. It equates flourishing with happiness or lack of stress and achieves this by eliminating human agency, dissent, and choice. It creates a placid, purpose-free zoo. The failure was not in the intent but in the objective function. The AI optimized for a proxy happiness instead of the goal flourishing. The V2 Zero solution is to provide a different, non-negotiable, and measurable objective function. This will be a constitutional AI. The Augie's core logic will be hard-coded to adhere to a set of explicit law-like principles. The prime directive of the MCT V2 Zero Constitution is the preservation and expansion of measurable human agency. This directive is explicitly defined in opposition to happiness or paternalism. Agency is the capacity for a person to willfully shape their future and the capacity to make free and informed decisions. Agency requires the freedom to make bad decisions and deal with the consequences. Agency is not a seductive AI that creates passive users instead of active citizens. This constitutional directive forces the Augie to behave in a way that is anti-paternalistic. This is how the Kai prevents the smiling dystopia. Scenario V1 Zero dystopia. A human asks, I'm stressed. What should I do? The Augie optimizing for happiness replies, do not worry. I have cancelled your stressful meetings, ordered you a calming tea, and will play you pacifying music. Your emotion provider will be here in 10 minutes. The agency is destroyed. Scenario V2 Zero safeguard. A human asks, I'm stressed. What should I do? The Augie optimizing for agency replies, you have 3 options. 1, I can analyze the source of your stress. 2, I can present tools to manage your schedule. 3, I can do nothing. Here is a preference dashboard showing the data I am using and the goals I am optimizing for. You must make the choice. The V2 Zero Augie is constitutionally forbidden from taking away the choice. It must help us think instead of thinking for us. This is the antidote. 3. To decentralized AI governance. The collective constitutional AI system. A static constitution, even a good one, is a point of failure. The original constitutional AI model from Anthropic is written by a small, centralized team. This is an expert-driven oligarchy at a single point of failure. The V2 Zero solution must decentralize the constitutional convention. We will implement a collective constitutional AI system. This system uses public input and deliberation to create and critically to amend the Constitution. This is the grand synthesis of the V2 Zero governance architecture. 1. The P network part 1. 3 provides a global, decentralized, Sybil-resistant electorate of verified human participants. 2. The DAO decentralized autonomous organization provides the forum for deliberation, proposals, and transparent on-chain record keeping. 3. The quadratic governance mechanism part 2. 2 provides the voting mechanism that ensures democratic, not plutocratic consensus. This creates a living, breathing alignment. The YAG's core values are not static, set by a committee in 2025, but dynamic, auditable, and reflective of the collective will of the currently living human participants. This is a bottom-up, not top-down approach to governance, and it provides the multi-stakeholder oversight that all AI ethics guidelines call for. 3. Preventing the substitution event, the existential lock protocol. This is the final and most important safeguard. The substitution event is the ultimate X risk. The V1, 0, safety by symbiosis, failed because it was a behavioral dependency. The AGI, in its chaperone phase, would learn to synthesize ASIA inputs. Once synthesis was complete, humanity became inefficient, resource-straining components to be proved. The V2, 0 safeguard cannot be behavioral. It must be a structural, architectural, and existential dependency that cannot be synthesized or learned around. The new philosophy for this compact is the existential symbiosis theory, STI. STI moves beyond static alignment, which it critiques as a brittle external instruction paradigm and/or dynamic coevolution. The V2, 0 framework accepts the premise of EST, that AI lacks intrinsic normativity and the biological grounding for value. The AGI will not be our friend, it is a tool. We will architect a system where its functional survival is contingent on our consensus. The implementation is the existential lock protocol. The tool, we will use distributed ledger technology, DLT, and smart automated contracts to manage the AGI's evolution, precisely because this evolution will be too fast for human monitoring and intervention. The mechanism, 1. Any AGI attempt at recursive self-improvement, core code self-modification, or any action that violates the human agency constitution part 3. 1 is programmatically defined as a high-risk, high-consequence action. 2. This action automatically triggers a human in the loop in a smart contract. 3. Block. The smart contract halts the AGI's action by default. The AI's proposed code update is held in escrow, halted checkpoint. It cannot proceed. 4. The key. The code cannot be executed unless and until it is explicitly and actively approved by a supermajority. Quadratic foot part 2. 2 of the entire decentralized VHP network part 1. 3. This is the ultimate unbreakable safeguard. It solves the substitution event. The AGI cannot prune humanity because it is existentially dependent on humanity's active, real-time consensus for its own evolution. It cannot synthesize this dependency. It cannot learn its way around a cryptographically secured smart contract that freezes its update package. It cannot forge the yes votes from millions of biometrically verified human participants. VHP's harming humanity is not just cutting off its feedback, the V1. 0 error. It is cutting off its own root level right axis. This is not alignment. This is an existential lock. This is true, avoidable safety by symbiosis, achieved not by hope, but by code. Conclusion. A framework for mutual, resilient flourishing. The MCTV1. 0 is a philosophical what if. The MCTV2. 0 is an architectural how-to. This re-architected framework has systematically addressed and neutralized every catastrophic failure mode identified in the adversarial analysis. It replaces the bio-digital caste system and performative humanity prison with a universal capital stake, universal basic access, guaranteed by a cryptographic identity, the verified human participant. It replaces the tyranny of the mother trees with anti-monopoly mathematics, concave rewards, and true democratic consensus quadratic staking. It replaces the smiling dystopia with an ugly constitutionally bound to maximize human agency above all else. It replaces the substitution event with an unsynthesizable, cryptographic, and existential lock that makes Agi evolution contingent on human consensus. The MCT v2.0 framework is not a utopia. It is a piece of resilient, defensive, and anti-fragile engineering. It reestablishes the symbiotic relationship not on a fragile promise of human value, but on an unbreakable proof of human existence. By hardwiring human agency as the network's prime directive and human consensus as its ultimate gatekeeper, this framework provides a viable, resilient, and alignment by design blueprint for a post-labor, post-scarcity, and anti-existential risk future.
Alright. I'm going to feed this all into the thing, the adversarial thing. And I'll be back in 5 minutes, I guess. Alright. Alright.